majority are viewing the catalog during peak quarantine months via a telephone or cell phone. BLUEcloud Mobile does not replace our online catalog enterprise, but it's an important option for users looking for a more mobile-friendly way to access the library anytime, anywhere. And today I hope to give you the tools to help your readers download the app should they need assistance. During this training, I'm going to cover available marketing resources, downloading the app onto a smartphone and logging in, the pre and post login experience, including discovering nearby libraries, viewing popular content, managing your account to include checkouts, holds, and renewals, linking and managing family cards, switching your language and other preferences, and searching. We'll also discuss some of the benefits of purchasing a separate library template and new development coming down the pipeline from CIRC Dynix. I have the knowledge base open on my screen here, and I'd like to start there. At our fall membership meeting, we had multiple requests for library marketing materials. CIRC Dynix helped the consortium develop a launch kit so you can effectively direct your patrons to the new app. And you can access those materials from within our knowledge base. If you haven't had time to explore this before, once you get to this home page, you can click on knowledge base up at the top or down here on the image. And from there, you'll want to go to Montana Shared Catalog. Our app articles are down here towards the bottom under mobile apps. And you can see we have a series of articles involving BCMobile as well as MobileCirc. And this top one here is the BCMobile launch kit. And we have a variety of materials available that most of them are in a PDF form. If you have staff on hand that like to tinker in Adobe Illustrator, you can open a ticket and I can send you Adobe Illustrator files as well. So for example, there are some posters that look like this that have a screenshot from our app as well as instructions to go to the App Store or the Google Play Store. There are also images to use on different social media platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, bookmarks, a sample press release, and blog post. We also have a QR code that will direct patrons to the download page. And I'll leave that up on my screen for a moment here because next I'm going to be talking about downloading the app. So if you have your phone handy, you're welcome to use this QR code to get straight to the download page on your device so that you can download the app. Otherwise, the app is available through the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store by searching Montana Shared Catalog. As of Monday, the app is available for download for librarians and readers. Even if your library has a customized template, you'll still be searching for Montana Shared Catalog, and then your library specific template will be delivered after they log into the app. And so I'm going to take this QR code down so that I can pull up my cell phone. And you should be seeing my cell phone screen now. And I'm just going to go into the Play Store to show you what that download will look like. So I'm searching for Montana Shared Catalog. And you can see it's the first result in the list. Go ahead and click that. And I've already installed the app, but your users will have the option to download and install instead of open. So I'm going to navigate back to my cell phone screen here, and we can take a look at the app. All right, here is your Montana Shared Catalog app, and this is how the app will appear before a user has logged into the app. Once you've downloaded, you'll see that there is a search bar, a book list, and a series of content tabs on the home page. And What we'll do is walk through each of these content areas so that we can discuss it a little bit more and see how each of these will work. First, I would like to talk about your scan an ISBN barcode option. And this particular tab will allow a user to scan the ISBN barcode on the back of a book. And we've found that this is most useful if a user is maybe at a bookstore or at a friend's house and wants to see if the library might have a copy of that book available. And just to show you how this works, I have a copy of a book off my personal bookshelf. And it's American Gods by Neil Gaiman. If we flip it over, we'll scan the ISBN barcode and it'll initiate a search. So you can see that it did find the same item. And if we click on it, you'll see details about the book. And if I were logged into my account, I would also be able to place a hold. There's book summaries, and it also says where the item is available. This particular item is at the Belgrade Community Library, and it is checked out at present. No surprise there, it's a good book. All right, let's go back to our home page. You can go back by either clicking back, or you can click the home, tap the home image here. All right. The next tab down is nearest libraries, and this tab uses the phone's built-in GPS to find libraries that are nearest to the user at that moment. If the patron denies the location permissions on their phone, that's okay. They'll still see a list of libraries. They'll be in alphabetical order, and they can also be searched. So let's take a look at that. My home office is in between Belgrade and Manhattan, so you can see that those are going to be my closest two libraries. And up at the top, we have this magnifying glass. So if you're looking for library information, maybe you're headed to Missoula and you want to know what their hours are, you can search for a library as well. So now we see the Missoula Public Library and how far away, as well as their hours. If we click into a library, let's go back here, we'll have more information. You can see the library's opening hours, as well as their location. You can view the library on a map. If you click view on a map or get directions, it's going to use your cell phone's preferred apps for those type of activities. On my phone, it's going to be Google Maps. So let's take a look at that. So it'll show you the directions to the library here. It uses your GPS location, so you can see it brings you to the street up to the library, and the library is right there on the map. Go back.
Rebecca, we have a comment, possibly question.
Okay.
Someone says, funny, I am sitting in my library and the app says I am 349 feet from it. Something off on GPS?
Yes, it could be. So based on your address, the software gets your GPS coordinates. If they're not quite right, we can update your GPS coordinates. You can either open a ticket to let me know what they should be, or we can try and figure that out together. Just open a ticket so we can update that. Which brings up another good point. I'm sure this is probably true for the Belgrade Library based on what I'm looking at, and probably other libraries too. We loaded your hours and website information based on Aspen way back in the spring, and it's likely that your information has changed, the hours at a minimum. If that's the case, please open a ticket for that too, because we can update your information in the app as well as in enterprise and workflows. Does that answer the question?
So we have a response that I checked the map. The library is marked on the underlying Google map, but a half block off according to the app.
Yes, so that will be based on how the GPS is entered into the content management system for BLUEcloud Mobile. So we just need to tweak your GPS coordinates a little bit, and we can do that. The directions themselves are based off of your address, I believe. So those should be accurate. Let's take a look. Oh, this one's doing it by GPS as well. So if they're a little bit off, just let me know and we can tweak that.
Great. We'll probably be getting some tickets to correct some stuff. Wonderful.
Wonderful. We'd like it to be as accurate as possible. But this is to be expected as we are just getting into the brand new app. We can make some tweaks here and there. So some other options on here, you can see that there's also your library contact information, your telephone number, so double check that as well. And if you need a different phone number in there, that's another area where you can open a ticket and we can update that too. If we click the phone number, it will open our phone's actual telephone app so you can make a phone call. And visit a website will open your website in your chosen or your selected browser for your cell phone. All right, let's go back. The next tab's My Account, but let's back up a moment here and talk about book lists. On our app, we have several book lists that are included. And this first one here is the Young Reader's Choice Award nominees for 2021. If you click on More, it will load additional book lists for your review. And you also have the option to scroll through the items, and you can select one to view the item's details, which will include all the information I described before, the book summary, as well as other descriptive information about the item.
Rebecca?
Yes?
We have a couple comments and a question. Someone mentioned, I think it's important to check in reference to the Google coordinates. She says, Google continually sends patrons to Jefferson City in order to access the Clancy Library. Winky face. It might not be you. It might be Google. And we had a question, should we send in a ticket to update hours, or is that something we could or should update through Aspen ourselves?
Both. It's a good idea to keep your information updated in Aspen, but the Montana Shared Catalog staff don't necessarily have a link between Aspen and our ILS. So we would need to be notified so that we can update it in our software as well.
And finally, we have a comment that they love seeing that feature. I'm not sure which feature that is, possibly the book river or book carousel. But
yeah, I really like that too.
The book list.
Yeah. So our intention at this moment is to keep this updated as the lists get replaced. So as new nominees come out for the YRC, there's also some potential in here to include lists that are seasonally relevant. We are trying to keep it to items that are available at many libraries within the state, so that if a patron clicks on there, they're not frustrated that they can't find a copy, if that makes sense. So these are some of the ones we came up with for our app launch. I think they're a lot of fun. And some New York Times bestseller lists, I think that's a great idea, Jody. I'm sure we could do that as well. Go back. Okay, so you've seen the book list, the ISBN barcode scan, and the nearby libraries. Readers can also view popular content before even logging into their account. And you can see the next tab is My Account, but we're going to breeze by that for a moment so that we can look at some of this other content. First, down at the bottom, you'll see Register Online. And we talked about this at the membership meeting, but during the beginning of COVID-19 closures, we configured online registration for all libraries that participate in Montana Library to Go, so that library users can create a digital library card to access Montana Library to Go, even if the library is closed. And what that will do is create a temporary user. The patron is given instructions to follow up with their public library so that they can get a permanent library card. And a list of these users can be accessed from BLUEcloud Analytics. So if we click on this tab, we're brought to a form it's actually on Enterprise. And they can fill out their information, and at the bottom they have the option to choose their public library. Once the application's submitted, they get a temporary barcode number that can be used immediately to log into Montana Library to Go. Once things have stabilized, we have a report in workflows that can be used to periodically purge these users if they don't come into the library to update their account. So go back. Your app does not have this. You may be logged in already, so that's a good point. Lori brought up that her app does not show register online, and we have functionality within the app to hide certain content, whether a user is logged in or not. And in this instance, if a user is not logged in, they'll see register online, but if they're already logged in, they have an account, so they don't need to register again. So it's hidden from view in that situation.
We have a question. Are we covering where BC Analytics is at?
That's a great question. We can just briefly dive into that, but if you haven't used BLUEcloud Analytics, you'll want to take a look at the knowledge base for BLUEcloud Analytics. So if we go back, there's this section of articles, and we can get you credentials for logging into BLUEcloud Analytics, but you might recognize it as well. We call it BCA sometimes, and it's this guy. So if you go into shared reports, you can go into the users tab and you can find a list of online registrations. This one right here. And it's also a good moment to bring up that our app does have statistical information, and once we have a full month's worth of data, I intend to load that data into BLUEcloud Analytics for your review. And you can see that there's a folder anticipating that for BLUEcloud Mobile. So that's where you'll be able to locate your BLUEcloud Mobile statistics. Good question.
Yeah, and if you still have questions about any of this, whether it's related to the session or not, please feel free to open a ticket. We love getting tickets. They're not a nuisance, and we just want to be here to support you guys. So, good question.
Yes. By default, the app is set up for users to swipe through content. They can change that in preference so that it's a continuous scroll instead, like a traditional website page. But as it is, by default, they could swipe through to see the next page of content. And you can see here that we have several more content tabs of popular content. Montana Library to Go, if they click on that tab, or I guess on a phone, tap on that tab, they'll be brought to our Montana Library to Go website. You can actually view, you can download and view materials right from your browser window in Overdrive. If they've set it up, it will also pop open their Libby app by default, depending on their preferences and their own phone and how they've configured things. One thing to note, while it will direct them to Montana Library to Go, they may need to log in with their library card if they're not already logged in. I think I'm already logged in, but it will bring them to that page to initiate the login and to check out materials. Montana Memory Project is also highlighted, and if you haven't used the Montana Memory Project, is there another question? No? Okay. Montana Memory Project is our digital collections that are relating to Montana history and culture. If you click on that, we'll see the MMP's digital site where you can search for different collections, including photographs, yearbooks, and other print materials. The school digital collection is relevant to our school librarians, and I think we had some that had signed up for this session. And so that will bring you to the Sora app, where the students can select their school from the dropdown. And we have state publications. The state publications can be searched through a traditional search, but they can also be viewed in a more visual way by using the Content tab, which will allow your readers to see the covers and also use some different features in here like tagging. So these are going to be digitized state government documents that date back to 1890 through the present. How do we get our schools to participate in Sora? So I will have you follow up with that with Kara Orban, who's our statewide consortium director. I think there's an opportunity there. I'm not sure if it is closed yet or not for some startup funds for joining Sora that were part of the funds we received for COVID-19. So that would be something to explore through our statewide projects coordinator.
And Lori, you can do that either by opening a ticket, or if you have Kara's email, you can email her directly. But even if you're not sure who to send the ticket to, it will make sure it gets to the right person.
Thanks, Kylie. And then the final content tab to highlight here is the Natural Heritage Program. And this tab is special because it's a nested tab, meaning if a patron clicks on it, they're going to see additional resources. There's the Montana Field Guide, the species snapshot, and a map viewer. And all those resources are freely available to the public. Okay, so we can go back to our homepage here. And as mentioned, all those content items are available to readers before they log into the app. There's some additional options post login, and the experience changes a bit. As mentioned before, the register online will disappear, and they will also have some filtering on their search to narrow down a search to their specific library or sharing group. I just wanted to mention, Kathleen said in the chat that the field guide is a really great resource for quick info on Montana species, and I agree, it's pretty neat. If you haven't looked through there, they have things like recordings of different animal sounds and pictures of their distribution. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was thinking this app would be a really cool way to do some sort of, digital scavenger hunt or something for your libraries. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Carly added as well as fishing and hunting guides. Very, very good resources.
Very much so.
All right, we're at a good point now where we can log into a test account, and there's two ways of going about that. The first way is to click the My Account tab, which is this guy right here with the teal icon. You can also use the hamburger menu at the top next to the search bar, which will pop out this menu. Both of the options do the same thing. It just is, the My Account icon is maybe a little bit more visual for users who are not familiar with the hamburger icon. So that's why we have both ways of doing that. And we can sign in here. You'll be prompted to enter either your borrower number or to scan your library card. And even if you scan your library card, you do still need to enter a PIN. And for the purposes of this presentation, I created a demo user. So I'll log in with that user. Before I move off this page, I did want to mention that because of the checkbox there under Keep Me Signed In, patrons can check that and it'll leave them signed in to the app, so they don't have to continually be trying to recall what their library card number is or pulling it out of their wallet. It'll keep them logged in across sessions. So we'll go ahead and log in. All right, now that I'm logged in, the first thing that stands out that's a new addition to the app after logging in is this My Barcode option down at the bottom. If you click on that, it will show you your library card. And if your library has the right kind of scanner, you can scan this directly from the phone. If your scanner does not scan screens, the number is still displayed underneath the barcode so that you can type it in. This is really handy. I know a lot of people like to carry as few cards as possible, so this is an option for them to keep their card on their phone and not try to keep track of it when they're visiting the library. From the hamburger menu, or by clicking My Account, you have several options for managing your account. The first fun one to point out is you can add a picture up here of yourself if you would like to, or of a favorite character or scene, anything like that. If you recognize the name of my character, it's the Mandalorian, and they never take off their helmet, so no picture for him. This is the way. So we'll continue without doing that, but we'll go down this list of options that our borrower has. First, you can manage your checkouts. And from the checkout page, there's a few different things going on here. First, you can review due dates of your materials. You can also take a look at your checkout history. My user has not turned on checkout history, so there's nothing to display here. But if your library has opted in to checkout history and the patron has configured it so that they collect history, then that will display here for them to view on the app. To turn on checkout history, there is not a way to do that within the app. They would need to go into Enterprise to turn on checkout history, or they can interact with library staff to have them turn that on for them. Within this page, in addition to reviewing just the checkouts and the due dates, you can tap the item and you'll see you have more options. You can either view the item to look at the different details again. You can renew the item. You also have the option to renew at the top here. So select would give us the option to choose one or more of these items and then to renew. I'm going to cancel. You can also do a renew all, and that would renew all the materials that are eligible. So I'm just going to do that so we can see what it looks like. If the renewal is successful, you'll see a green check mark. Should the item fail, it'll have a red X and it will give you a reason why it failed. Normally that's because the renewal limit has been exceeded, or perhaps there's a hold on the item. All right, let's go back and take a look at holds. There are several options here for managing your holds. If we tap on the item, we can see those options. So the Mandalorian has a hold on the last Stargazers, and you can see when the hold will expire, so roughly a year from now. It's set to be picked up at the Belgrade Community Library, but you also have the option here to change the pickup location, to suspend or set on vacation, or to cancel the hold. Let's change our pickup location just to see what that looks like. Your library's list of pickup locations is going to be limited to those that are applicable to your library. Maybe that's just your single library or your sharing group. In this instance, Belgrade Community Library is part of a sharing group that includes other Gallatin County libraries. So I'm going to change my pickup to the Bozeman Public Library and click Change Pickup Location. Great.
Rebecca, we have a comment that This is so great. I'm excited as a library user and also as library staff with the increased functionality of this app.
Yes, I'm excited about it too. I think it's
Yeah,
a really nice upgrade.
we feel the same.
If you're not familiar with suspend hold, this is the same as if a patron comes up to the desk and says, I'm not wanting to pick up my hold next week because I'm going to be camping. So what you could do is suspend the hold, and that allows them to set a vacation date. So let's say I'm not going to be in town from here to from November 18th, and then the end date, November 30th. And then we can suspend our hold. And you can see now the status has changed to suspended. And it's got the details of that length of suspension. You can also cancel the hold. I'm not going to do that today, but that is an option. Similar to the checkout page where you could renew all of your items at once, you can do changes to all your holds at once too. So you can select up here all holds, and then it'll give you additional options to choose what you would like to do to those holds. You could also click select, and same here, you would choose what you want to do, and then it will give you the option to choose the individual items. We only have one item here, so I just did it at the item level. The app allows you to place new holds as well, but I think I'm going to circle back to that later once we get to the section on searching. So let's go back. My user right now doesn't have any fines, but if there were fines displayed here, it would tell you how many and on which items. It would not give you the option to pay fines at this time, but it will give you the reader instructions to follow up with their library to arrange payment. Let's go back. This is the item that I'm probably most excited about. I'm sure many of you have patrons that come in that are holding cards for multiple children, maybe a spouse. They can link all of those cards onto one app. And we're going to do that now just to show you what that looks like. So if you click on linked accounts, you can add another user. So I'll do my second user here. All right, so now I have a child card added to my account. It's Baby Yoda. And Baby Yoda has added some additional information to our account here. You can see that now there's additional checkouts. There's also some fines. So let's take a look at that. In checkouts, you can see that beneath your checkouts, you'll see the checkouts for your linked cards, which will give you the options, the same options. You can renew your items for those linked cards. And let's go back.
We're loving the Star Wars references, Rebecca.
Oh, good. Yes, we just did a Mandalorian marathon at my house this past weekend. So we're all caught up on that show. Baby Yoda doesn't have any holds yet, but his holds would display down below yours. And now we can see that there are some fines on this account. So if you click on that, you can see, please contact the library to arrange payment. I mentioned development coming down the pipeline from Circe Dynix. Adding payment functionality to the app is one thing that they are working on. So that may be something we have available in the future. It's not ready yet, though. All right, there's a few more items on managing an account that I wanted to talk about. The first of which is preferences. If you go into preferences, your users will have the option to reorder their icons. This is useful if they know that they're going to use certain things all the time. So perhaps they're not really into scan ISBN barcode, so they want to move that to the bottom and instead move Montana Library to go to the top. Or maybe they're really into the natural heritage programs. They want to move that up. Changing the icon order will affect only their app. It doesn't affect any other user's experience in the app. It's just their own. They also have the option to change from flow to scroll. I can show you what that looks like. And then finally, they have the option to reload. Reload's most useful for staff, I would say. So when you submit a ticket to update your hours, for example, if you want to check that they are displaying how you want them to look, you can reload the app and it will show you any changes right away. Otherwise, those type of changes to the app display or information that we enter, it'll update periodically throughout the day, but it won't be immediate. Of course, things like checkouts and renewals, those do display immediately in the app. You don't have to reload to see those. Another option to reload is maybe there's been a new release of the app and they want to see that added functionality right away. You could reload there too. So those are just a few reasons why you might want to reload, but for the most part, it's hidden down on the bottom because it's more of an advanced use. Let's go back and see what those changes look like.
We've got another idea for the Natural Heritage Program functionality. You could use it for a summer reading program or 2021 program with the theme Tales and Tales, like puppy dog tales and tales like stories.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And in fact, that gave me a good idea of, as summer reading approaches, maybe we'll add a content tab for the SRP too. It applies to enough libraries that I think that would be of interest. Can you put an avatar of linked accounts too? Yes, you can. You can do that, I believe. Oh, no, you would have to log into them individually to add an avatar, I think, unfortunately. And I did play with adding some images for Baby Yoda, but I don't want to get in trouble with Disney for copyright reasons. I'd probably be fine, but yeah, so I think you would have to log into them individually, unfortunately, because that would be fun. Okay, so now you can see this is what scroll looks like. It's more like a traditional web page, and our icons are now in a different order. If we click on My Barcode at the bottom, look, now we have 2 cards. So no more having to keep track of multiple cards in your wallet for all of your children. As a family of 5, this is something that I really appreciate. Okay. Back on our main menu, we should also talk about language. Our app has also been translated into Spanish. We can take a look at that. It'll translate all of the buttons as well as our content tabs. All right, so you can see that everything has been translated into Spanish. I think this is just a really fantastic option as our communities have more and more Spanish speakers. I'm going to turn it back to English. And then I'm also going to change my preferences back to flow, to flow, because I prefer that. Okay, I'm going to log out of my account so we can talk about searching both as a reader that is not logged in and as a reader that's logged in. And I think it makes more sense to start from the state of not being logged in. You can see that our preference is stuck though. You can set those preferences whether you're logged in or not. They'll stick to your app as it's downloaded on your phone, even if you log in as a different user later, which is actually another use for using a linked account. Sometimes you might have cards from different institutions. For example, I have a Belgrade card, but I also have a Montana State Library card. So I could add both of those into the app as linked accounts. Okay, so let's do a search just to demonstrate what a search will be like before a patron is logged in. And the main thing to note here about a search pre-login is it's searching the entire consortium. So you're going to see materials from everywhere. But the patron does have some options, and remember, this is all pre-login. They do still have some options to refine their search. So you can see this is a pretty wide net. We have 620 results. Down here at the bottom, you can select some limits. If we click on that, we can use the Limit To feature to choose a sharing group or a specific library. You can choose a particular format. So that would be a book or a DVD, for example.
Rebecca, we have a question. Under the different subtitles, is there a checkout time for items like a library, or is it a one-time viewing?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question. Subtitles, is there a checkout time for items? If you can clarify in the chat, I might be better able to address that.
And then a second question, like the heritage info, so like a tabbed, um, hmm.
Oh, so if you go into the heritage, like the MMP information, and you can view those without any kind of checkout. There's no checkout length on those. If you're talking about Montana Library to Go, those checkout policies will apply the same as if they were going in through Overdrive, so a 2-week checkout. Did I answer what you were asking, Sarah?
Excellent. Yes. And then a second question, if I link an account to my app, does that mean my info would show up in the app of the user with the linked account?
No, it wouldn't. So you would have to, if let's say you and your partner both wanted to have the app on your phone, you would want to add the accounts to both. You would want to link the accounts within each other's apps. It wouldn't make it happen in the other app by default.
Another
Can you
question.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, I saw this one. Can you link more than one library card, such as Dylan and Twin? Yes, you can. You can have as many linked accounts on there as you would like. And if they're from different libraries, you can certainly do that. Good questions. So we were just looking at the format filter. You can also search on a particular field. So if our space travel search, we knew that was the specific title of that item, we could change that here. And then finally at the bottom, you can choose how you want to sort the results. This is a lot like Enterprise. In fact, these are the exact same options for sort that we have in Enterprise. By default, they're going to sort by relevance, but you can change that to a title sort or author or perhaps publication date. All right, so we've taken a look at searching, and I've already showed you what a detailed display will look like. Let's take a look at what a search looks like if you're logged in. So I'm going to sign back in to my test user. And we're going to run the same search, which was space travel. All right, so if you remember before, we had over 600 items. I think it was approaching 700 items. Now we're down to 195 results. And that's because once you've logged into your account, the app is going to automatically filter your search down to your specific library, or if you're a member of a sharing group, to your specific sharing group. You also have the option to get rid of that filter if you want to broaden it back out. Or if you click here, you can change it. So if I don't want to look at Gallatin County libraries, I want to look at Belgrade specifically, I could change that here. And the same options below also apply. I mentioned that you can clear the filter entirely, and to do that, you would just click this X here. And then to reapply, same thing, click in, and then you can choose your library. Let's go with Belgrade this time. I should note at this time that I'm not sure, I would have to look at the contact list. Oh yes, we have at least Missoula on. So if you have a library template, you do not have the option to filter back out to the entire consortium. It's going to be, the highest level is going to be your sharing group because it's an enforced search limit that happens automatically for you. But you can still restrict or limit it down to just the Missoula Public Library, for example, instead of partners. Okay, so I have given you a pretty thorough tour. Oh, no, there is one more item I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you how to place a hold once you're logged in. So let's do that. So I search for science, comics, robots, and drones. And here's our item. I'm going to click it to view the detailed display, and now we can place a hold. On the hold screen, I can select my pickup location, and I can place my hold. It's as simple as that. All right. Any questions about the app so far before I dive into a new section of information here?
And if you have a
Okay.
question, just in the future, you're welcome to unmute yourself, or you can type it in the chat. Either way works for us.
Absolutely, and I don't mind being interrupted. That's fine. I wanted to take this time to mention here we've got a couple
Yeah,
questions.
we do. Okay, so I'm trying to download the app onto my tablet, but it's not coming through.
Okay, we might need to troubleshoot that a little bit more
Yeah.
outside of this session. So
So,
if you want to reach out with the ticket, I can follow up with you.
yeah,
And then okay. Does this take the place of Overdrive and Libby, or does a user have to keep these on their device? Well, you can use your browser to read these items. Essentially what you're doing when you're clicking Montana Library to Go is it's opening in the browser. I would still say keep Libby. You don't have to, but I kind of like the way that it gives you some options for putting in bookmarks or changing the speed that they talk in the audiobook. And some of those options aren't going to be available when you're using it from the browser. But you certainly could if you wanted to narrow it down to just one app. A moment ago, I mentioned that the search experience is a little bit different for libraries that have purchased a template because users won't be able to escape out of their library or, where applicable, their sharing group search to a broader search. But there are some other functions that may be of interest and might be a reason to consider a template when we open that up for a second round. I'm going to log in as ImagineIf Library to take a look at what their template looks like so that we can talk about one of those features.
while you do that, Rebecca, we have a comment that one of our librarians recommends that patrons continue to use Libby for actually accessing the content. The BCMobile app would work for browsing or checking out from Montana Library to Go. And you are spot on, Jody.
I agree. You can view the content from the browser. I just don't think it's as nice as Libby. Okay, so I'm going to log in as ImagineIf. We'll give it a moment here to load the ImagineIf app. Okay, so this is ImagineIf's template. And the main thing I wanted to point out, besides the obvious, I mean, they've added their own logo and their own colors and content, but down here on the bottom right, there's this checkout option. And if you have a template, the app now has the option to do self-check, which I think is so useful right now, especially as libraries are trying to have maybe less face-to-face contact or exchanging of books. You can maintain a little bit more space between you. And the way self-check works, I don't have any items that will actually scan from ImagineIf. But if you click on the little checkout, it'll bring you to a window where you can, if you click checkout, it'll allow you to scan the library barcodes and produce a digital receipt that's stored under your self-service receipts, which is pretty nifty. And I have a website from Circe Dynex here that shows you a little bit more about how the self-check works. And it's only available if you have a template at this time. But the patron can scan their item and they can go through their whole list, and you can check all those items out just using the app, which I think has, you know, some utility for curbside, for example. And speaking of curbside, there's also some new development from Circe Dynex that will apply to template libraries specifically, called Click and Collect. It's in a global pilot right now, so it's not quite ready for implementation. But Click and Collect, if you have recently visited a restaurant by placing your order online and then you fill out, you know, your information about your vehicle so that they can run it out to the curb to you. This is similar. So what it does is it allows a patron to place a hold, and then through a website, the library can interact with the patron to find out more information about their vehicle or when they plan to come pick up the item. And they can even chat with the person. There's an option to do that. So the person can say, I'm ready to click these items up, and then they can either schedule a time or they can use their GPS functionality in their phone to say that they're en route, and you can keep tabs on how far away they are from picking up their item. And then once they arrive, they can click a new button that says that they're at the library to get their item. So this is how it would look for the patron. They would have this click and collect option on their holds page. So once an item, see it says being held, that means it's available for pickup. They can choose to click and collect those items. And they would enter in, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. They would enter in information about their car, and they could say, I'm on my way, or, oops, went the wrong direction. They can schedule a time, an estimated time of arrival. And then once they arrive, they can click I'm here, while the library can have their side open in an internet browser so that they can interact with the patron. So for example, here they say they can give a status update and the library can reply, or maybe they could say, you know, we don't have availability right now, please check back in an hour or something. And then they can click done, that they've picked up their items. Maybe you set them out on a shelf for them, and then you know they've been collected. So this is a really cool feature that the library world is quite excited about, and that's in pilot, and we anticipate that it'll be available for libraries that have a template. And that concludes the information that I wanted to present about BLUEcloud Mobile, but I do want to follow up with giving you some time to ask any more questions, but then a couple of poll questions to see how you are feeling about the app at this time. And feel free to unmute yourself if you have questions.
This is Sarah from Belgrade. I have a question. I'm sure it's gone out to Wired and MSC Discuss, but if we were to be interested in getting a template for our library, is there a cost associated with that? And is there a certain time frame we're allowed to sign up for it? Just kind of gathering information. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I would have you do, so Kara Orban, the statewide projects coordinator, also manages our Montana shared catalog contracts with Circe Dynex. So what would happen is we would request a quote from Circe Dynex to see how much it would be to add an additional template. And as far as the timeline goes, I'm not absolutely certain on that, but that would be another item that Kara would be able to help you with. So if you open a ticket through the same MSC ticket system, we'll be able to direct that to Kara.
Rebecca, right now, before we do the polls, I'm just going to share in the chat with everyone the link to the knowledge base articles that are in our online help desk talking about BCMobile.
Thank you, Kylie.
We also have a couple comments. We have a hip hip hooray, it's finally arrived and doesn't disappoint. Thank you.
Yay.
And another comment, this is great. Our patrons are going to love having access to their kids' cards.
I think so too. I'm really excited about it. Please make sure if you get some pleased patrons and you have stories from them, I would absolutely love to hear those. If you want to send them to me via the ticket system, we like to share that feedback with the Montana State Library Commission so they know more about what we're working on. And I wanted to point out, Kylie shared the link to our knowledge base in the chat. I sent out this particular article via the listserv, but it will walk you through a lot of the things that we just talked about with some nifty screenshots. And if you're making kind of a how-to document for your patrons, feel free to take anything from this and copy and paste it, or even if you wanted to just print it out as is, you can as a PDF and save it. And that might be useful that you can link it on your website for patrons.
So I just want to put the Google Play Store with the MobileStaff app highlighted here while I start. Close out of a couple things. So during this section of the training, we're going to go over downloading the MobileStaff app onto a device and logging in, as well as the option to log in from a browser, then using MobileStaff to perform your basic circ tasks, inventory your collection, generate weeding lists, also known as deselection lists, using it to conduct outreach, and how to continue operating in offline mode when you can't connect to the internet. You can also do that in MobileStaff and not just in workflows. So what I'm going to go over, this content will soon be made available in the knowledge base in the same section as the BCMobile app information. So when it's there, we'll make sure to announce that on the MSC Discuss listserv.
And we had a question, is there a fee to use MobileStaff, or is that available to all MSC libraries?
That is available to all libraries in the consortium. It is free. MobileStaff was previously known as MobileCirc, so you may recognize it under that name. We suspect that Cersei Dynix changed the name to avoid confusion between their app meant for library staff, hence MobileStaff, and BCMobile that Rebecca just went over. So if you originally downloaded the app when it was still called MobileCirc, you'll need to uninstall it from your device, then download MobileStaff from your app store of choice. So here I've searched the Google Play Store for MobileStaff. The first time you open the app after downloading it onto your device, you'll be prompted for an activation URL and key. And to get those credentials, please open a help desk ticket when you're ready, and we can send you that info. I have already downloaded the app onto my work phone. I've also already activated it. So when I open it, I'm taken directly to the sign-in screen where I can enter my workflow's username and password. It's a good idea to log into MobileStaff as soon as you've downloaded the app. And this is because you need to have logged into a live session of the app, meaning it's connected to the internet, at least once before you can use the offline mode functionality. And we'll cover that more later, but it's just a good practice. So what I'm going to do is actually show you the functionality from the browser, because I think that will be a better viewing experience for you folks, and it'll make it a little easier on me to tap or paste things, copy and paste things, or type them in. So if you want to open MobileStaff in a browser as opposed to using the app, you can just paste the activation URL into the address bar. And just like with the app, the first time you do this, you'll be prompted for the key. You'll also notice up here that the URL still contains the terms MobileCirc, but don't worry about that, it still works. So just go ahead and open a ticket to get both the URL and the key. Once you have done that and it's activated, you'll be prompted, whether you're in the app or in the browser, to choose your institution from a drop-down, which I've already done. For this training, I'm also going to be relying on the Belgrade Community Library. Woo woo. But when you first log in, you'll have to choose your institution. So one second. Okay, here I've logged in. Pardon me. Now, when I open the app in the future, or in this case, when I log in from this browser again, Belgrade is going to be my default institution. And if you ever need to change that default, you can do so by going into the Setup tab in this left-hand menu. So if I choose that and I go into the General section, you'll see that my institution defaults to the Belgrade Community Library, but if I wanted to change that, I would click that here, and then I'd have a new institution that I could choose. You also have some other options. You can adjust the language if you like. You can also change the amount of time that you can be idle in the app before it logs you out. So right now we're set to 15 minutes. And you can also adjust the theme. I'm going to leave it as the BLUEcloud theme because I think it has a lot of good contrast and it's a little bit easier for me to read. Don't worry about station name. And we'll be revisiting this page throughout the session, just because there are some little tweaks that you can make for each of these tabs here. But when you first log in, it'll automatically pull up the checkout page. So let's say that you have a patron who has just arrived at the library, they're parked, and maybe they give you a call because you're offering curbside service. And they say, hey, I know that my holds are in. Could you please bring my holds out to me? I'm ready to check them out. Well, you can either do that in workflows, or if you're using MobileCirc, you have the option to scan the user ID. If you're in the browser, then you can use just a regular scanner like you normally have at the counter. If you're in the app, you're going to need to have a Bluetooth scanner in order to use that. Or you can type it in manually, or you can also do a user search. For me, if I'm helping a patron who's parked outside, it'd be easiest for me to just grab their name. So I'm going to look them up by their last name, which in this case is Training. And I'm going to hit enter, or you can click search. So here you'll see a list of folks with the last name Training, and I happen to be talking to Bob on the phone. So I'm going to pull up his account by tapping or clicking on it. Excellent. Oh, okay. So you'll automatically get a pop-up, just like you would in workflows, letting you know things like if the user is delinquent, maybe has some overdues, and then any other notes that you've put on the account. Nothing new here, really. So I'm going to say, okay. Now, You'll see a list of current checkouts, but you'll also have the option to scan the holds or whatever items that you're checking out to that patron. A couple things to note here. Up in the upper right-hand corner, we have some icons. One is a calendar where you can change due dates. The other is a book with a magnifying glass where you can do an item search. So normally I don't think you would be using this in the scenario I'm describing, but just so you know, this functionality is there. If I do an item search, and let's say I'm going to do a title search for Hobbit, keep it simple. Notice that my library is defaulted to Belgrade only right now. And you click search or hit enter. All right, it looks like we have 7 results. And if I'm going to look at these items more closely, let's say, oh, I might want to check out the Battle of 5 Armies, or Bob does. And it'll give me the shelf location as well as the item ID and whether or not the item's available. So it looks like this one's on the shelf, whereas the Desolation of Smaug, it's currently checked out and due back later. All right, well, Bob happened to mention that he was hoping if this DVD was available that he'd like to check that out as well with the rest of his holds. So I'm going to select this just by clicking or tapping on it. Oh, and I get another pop-up, and this one is letting me know, hey, this DVD should have 2 discs in the case. I'm going to type in the override, say okay, great. Now I have the Hobbit checked out to me. A really interesting feature about MobileStaff is that you have the option to set email notifications of checkout receipts. It won't it won't email them automatically. What you'll need to do after you check out to them is go up to the top of the screen. You'll see the email listed, and you'll want to click on it. Okay, now you get a pop-up saying which items should be included in the email receipt, and you have options. If you choose current, that will only send the checkout slip for the item I just checked out. If I choose all, that'll send all the checkouts and all their info. And if I decide I don't want to actually email Bob, then I'm going to click cancel. So I'm going to do current, and it will tell me that the email receipt was sent. Okay, great. Now when that pops up in Bob's inbox, I'll show you what that looks like. If for some reason, let's say Bob is also picking up an item for his wife, but she is going to be going on a trip and will need a slightly different due date, just a few more days than the normal due date is. You can go up here to the due date icon, and you will be presented with the calendar, which defaults to the current day. But what you can do is go down to the button and click Set. And this is just like your special due date helper in checkout. You can choose the new due date that you want, and then you can say, okay, I only want to set that special due date for this item only, for this user only, or until I sign out, so for the entire session. And if you say for next item only and click OK, you'll see up here that the due date icon will have that date listed. So you may realize that this email feature is pretty great, because if you have patrons that don't really care for the printed out slips, or especially now, they don't really want to be touching or carrying extra things in addition to books, then emailing it to them is a great alternative. So let me show this to you.
I think it's also great because then you don't have to worry about figuring out a Bluetooth printer to connect to this. You can just do it all digitally. no paper.
Definitely. Okay, so this is what came to my email address. You'll see it's just the current checkout, The Hobbit, The Battle of Five Armies. And I have the date it was charged and the date it's due. And then if you have any questions, you can always contact your library. If I had chosen all checkouts, it would have listed all of them just in a bigger chart. So it's always good before you decide to send an email of your checkouts to make sure that the person's email address is correct. Okay. Now for checking in. We're just going to go down this left-hand menu here. One thing I want you to note, if you're using the check-in book drop wizard because you're quarantining items, then you're going to want to keep doing that. If you're not quarantining items, meaning you don't have to set a return date that's earlier than today, or the day that you're using MobileCirc, then you can definitely check items in this way, but it's just something to be aware of. So turns out that Bob didn't want this item, so he's giving it right back. So I'm going to select it, but you can also search for the items, type in the ID, or scan them. All right. I need to double check it has both pieces. I know it does. And then it'll tell you where it needs to route to. If the item is on hold for someone else or needs to go into transit, it will let you know that here. So to renew by user and renew by item, this allows you to just renew checkouts in your preferred way. Let's say Bob gives us a call because he realizes after we emailed him his checkout slip that he has an item that's overdue. Makes sense. Listening to Ulysses by James Joyce is no small feat. So I pulled his account up in Renew by User since I'm talking to him on the phone, and I just easy enough to pull them up. I just had his account open. And you'll see that we have a couple columns here. There's the Renew column and also a column that is titled Seen. And they both have all their boxes checked by default. One thing to note, often when you're renewing items, you have the option to choose Renew as Seen or Unseen. And in our system, it doesn't really make a difference. So you're welcome to just leave these checked by default if that's easiest for you. I don't want to renew all of these items. I just want to renew Ulysses. So I'm going to uncheck these others. I also could have unchecked them all at once and then check the box and choose renew items. Great. Now I have my new due date. Perfect. And then, if I get another call, I can do a new user search as well. Again, search by last name. But I'm going to go back instead. Okay. There's also renew by item. This is most helpful if you're just have the item in hand and you're going to scan it or type in the number. It will also list whether or not it was able to be renewed at the bottom of the screen.
Kylie, there is a question. Can you email a renewal receipt from the renewal screen?
That is a very good question. I do not think that you can, but let's take another look. It looks like you do have the option to adjust the renewal date, but I think if you want to send a new receipt, then you should probably go back to checkout, pull up that patron's account, and then send them a revised email. That's a really good question. And now you'll see that we have some more information about Bob. What about Bob? That the fine is specifically an overdue for 20 cents and all that. So I'm just going to go back. Okay. So we've done checkout, check-in, and renewing items. I just want to take this time to go down to setup and take a look at some of our settings here. You'll see that there's an option for checkout. So if you open that tab, we have an item display limit, which you probably won't need to worry about. But getting back to our email receipts setting, I set this to be choose. And what that means, if you look at the drop down, is you can set the email receipts option to automatically not email folks receipts. If you set it to choose, like I did, that's when you'll get the pop-up letting you know that you can choose to email the patron just the current item or items that they checked out, or you can send them a list of all of their checkouts, regardless of when they were checked out. You could also set it to automatically, when you choose to email them, it will only email the current. You don't have the option of either or. You can also set it to default when you email them, that it just defaults to emailing them all of their items every time. So you can do all items every time, only the current item, or you can choose between the two. Depending on if you find audio alerts helpful, you can also turn on this on so that it makes a little noise to catch your attention. I have it set to automatically extend a user's expired library privilege if that kind of account comes up. And that's something that we also have set up in workflows for folks if you would like it. That privilege just automatically gets extended if they're kind of on the brink and they come in and use their card. I like being able to see current items and current users. It's easy for me to flip back to Bob's account, for example, when his account's already listed up at the top. But if that's something that you find distracting and maybe you end up accidentally checking out to the wrong person, you can always turn this off. All right. Okay. Now for in-house use, this is just like it is in workflows, where if you want to mark an item used, you can type that item ID in, you can scan it with your scanner if that's a regular one or Bluetooth. And I don't know if I mentioned this with checkout, but if you are using a Bluetooth scanner and the app, there will be a little barcode icon in the right of the barcode field here. And when you click that, it will open up the camera on your phone or your tablet, and you can use that to scan the item ID, just like Rebecca showed us with scanning the barcodes in the BLUEcloud Mobile app. I generally find that cameras can be a little unpredictable and not as helpful if you have to scan a bunch of items, so I didn't want to really highlight that feature here. But you also have the option, again, to search for that item. And you'll see that it keeps pulling up whatever my last search was. So if you find that distracting, go ahead and click clear, and it'll revert back to the default for you. So in-house use can be great. Actually, hearkening back to the Belgrade days, I remember that after story time, you usually have a lot of books that got read or played with, and then we'd have to, you know, cart them back down from where we had the story time to scan them at the desk. But if you want to use MobileCirc, you can just bring the phone or tablet or even a laptop with you to where the books are and scan them without having to lug up and down stairs or in an elevator. Item status. This is great for when maybe you see some books left out on tables and you're not sure if that means that they're checked out and just waiting for their patron to come back and get them, or if you need to reshelve them but still want to mark them as used so that they get a circ stat. Oh, sorry, that's still in-house use. Item status. If you're not sure if they're checked out or if they just need to be reshelved, you can check that here. So for example, if I look up The Hobbit again, I'm going to choose this one. So let's just pretend that I scanned this because I saw the DVD on the table, and I'm wondering if someone has checked it out and is just browsing the shelves and on their way to pick it up. It looks like no, because it's telling me just route back to the home location where it's supposed to be on the shelf. So then that way, you know, maybe someone was watching it on one of the computers, I can mark it used and then shelve it. So this next option, the holds pull list, is something that we're pretty excited about. I know that a lot of libraries will open up their on-shelf items wizard at the beginning of the day or multiple times through the day and print off their list of holds that they can pull off the shelf. And you can somewhat kind of sort it, but it's not always super easy. So with MobileStaff, what you can do, I think Bozeman was the last library I had selected when I opened the app. So I'm going to change this to Belgrade. Make sure your library is selected, and then you have the option to specify the which part of your collection you want to look at first. You can choose all locations, and I'm going to set it to that for now, but you could also specify, oh no, you know what? We just want to go after our adult fiction right now. We'll tackle that first. Then you can specify that here. You can also choose the item type. So if maybe the current location for you isn't as useful because you're an acquisitions library and all of your books are in stacks, then maybe you can differentiate by saying, oh, all our DVDs are 14-day local right now. So we'll only search by that first. You can specify that here. And then you can sort by call number or another indicator. So we're going to do this first. We're going to look at Belgrade's on-shelf items, just all of them together sorted by call number. So once you've set that up, go ahead and click on-shelf items, and it might take a second. Oh, good. I was worried you guys might have pulled some holds, but thank goodness. Okay, so these are in order by call number. As we can see here, we have kind of all our fiction together, and then it goes into our juvenile books. Great. So instead of having to print off this list, you can just take the tablet or phone with you into the stacks. And if you click on the item, you can choose to trap the hold. If you're printing off hold slips, however, we recommend just holding on to that item and then checking it in at the desk so that it'll print your hold slip. You can also delete the request, or if you can't find the item, you can mark it missing right then. Or you can just say, oh, okay, that's this is the right item, click OK. And it won't do anything, I'll just leave it on the list. And then you can do that with each item, depending on what you need to do. But let's say Okay, I want only my adult fiction books. And then once you select that, you need to refresh it by clicking on shelf items again. Great, so here we go. That's pretty wonderful. And I know that folks, this is something that has definitely been requested, is organizing items by item type. So I hope you take advantage of that and let us know how it goes. Now, holds by user. Oh no. Let me just pull up a different, let's see. All right. Okay. All right. So now holds by user. I'm going to pull up Bob's account again. And again, I get the delinquent pop-up just letting me know that he has some overdue fines. And it lets me know, okay, he currently has one hold that has been placed. It hasn't been filled yet, and he wants to pick it up here at Belgrade. What you can do is select the hold. You can choose to display. Just gives you a little bit more information. You can go back. If Bob decides he's going to go with his wife on her vacation that he needed to change a due date for, then he might modify and say, okay, I'm going to be gone on vacation with my wife from this time to this time. So starting today to, let's see, or I'm going to set, sorry. Oh no, that's not what I want. I don't want the hold to expire. I want to suspend it starting today. Or if it's easier for you guys, I find the calendar widget to be easiest, but you can also flip it over and do some changing of the dial here. But I can just pick, okay, starting today and be back the 9th. I'll set that and then click modify. Great, and it's suspended. Perfect. You can also choose to remove a hold, or if you came in by error, you can just hit cancel, and you can look up another user or pull up that account again. One thing to note, this hold shelf feature isn't currently available, but it will be once we go through a workflows upgrade. So we'll announce that when it's available, but this will let you basically help you clean your hold shelf without having to view the clean hold shelf report in workflows first. It'll let you know when items have or holds have been canceled, or if they've been suspended, things like that. So there will be more on that later. It's pretty exciting. Inventory. I'm sure that some of you attending, if you have used MobileStaff, then you've probably used it for inventory so that you don't need to pull books off the shelf onto a cart, roll that cart over to the circulation desk, and then start scanning. So what you can do, one thing to note is that if you are going to start inventorying your whole collection or you're going to work through part of your collection section by section, then you're going to want to open a ticket with us first. Even if you know you want to use MobileCirc, there are some other things to consider and some reports we can set up for you to make that easier. So just a plug for that. Don't go barreling into immediately starting an inventory. We can help you make that a little bit easier. I know that Belgrade recently finished their inventory, so I won't be skewing their stats too much if I just say Okay, I'm gonna, ooh, this item looks like it's on hold for someone. So it lets us know that, and I don't know if you guys heard the little alert sound that was terrifying that came up. So this has been inventoried, but again, we got the little notice that, hey, you're going to want to put this on hold, so don't just put it back on the shelf. And then, but let's say all of a sudden we find maybe a book on CD that is mixed in with the DVDs, but maybe we don't notice that it's a book on CD, right? Let's see if any of these are books on CD. No. But let's just say, oh my gosh, there's a book mixed in with the DVDs, but you don't notice. I mean, you're going to notice, but let's say you inventory that item and it will give you an alert. It'll make the loud, scary noise. Or if you turn that off, it'll at least have it highlighted in red that, hey, we thought you were inventorying the DVDs, but this is supposed to go in nonfiction, so it's the wrong collection. And it's also out of order just in terms of the call number. So you could be in your nonfiction section inventorying, and if some items are just slightly misshelved, even like 3 or 4 books apart, this app will let you know that. So it's a little bit easier for staff, and I would think definitely for volunteers who are just diligently scanning and maybe not being as diligent about looking at the screen as they could be. So if we go into setup and we go into inventory, you see that you can set up the audio alerts and you can also check the shelving order.
And I just want to give a shout out from those of you that have done inventory. You know that it is really easy to just keep scanning items and not be aware that there's a pop-up on the screen until you've gone through several items already. So this is really nifty, and it's a good argument for using MobileStaff to do your inventory, even if it's just from the browser on your normal computer. I especially like the audio alerts. They might be startling for Kylie, but I think they're really useful and a good reminder to look at the screen and see what's going on with that item. And the check shelving order, that's, you don't even see that in workflows at all. So that's a nifty feature. That's an addition.
Yeah. Okay. And I missed an earlier settings section when I was talking about looking at your on-shelf holds lists and how you have the option in the app to mark items missing as you're looking for them. In this setup section, under deselect holds, you'll need to make sure that your missing user is listed. So in this instance, specifically Belgrade's missing user. If you go in here and all you see is the word missing, which I think might be the default for folks, then that's not going to the right one for your library. And if you're not sure what your missing user is called, then just open a ticket with us. We'll double check that for you, and we can help you get that info entered.
Kylie, there was a question. Can you use this to just check order the items and not inventory them?
That's a good question. I think if you are doing this, it will automatically mark your items as having been inventoried. I know that a lot of you folks that have inventoried also will be doing some weeding as you inventory. It's definitely a convenient time to do that. So that leads us into our next option here, which is deselect, which also is just a fancy term, or I think it's a fancy term for weeding. Now, I will say that if you want to get into the weeds of weeding, you should definitely check out BLUEcloud Analytics, because there are some even more granular reports that you can run in there. But just for kind of the broad strokes, MobileStaff can be a really good start. See, again, my library defaults to Belgrade, and I can specify which section of the collection I want to look at. So right now we have biographies set, but you can choose a different collection. I'm going to leave it on biography for now. You can also, just like with your holds list, choose the item types that you want to look at. And now we get to the dusty date based on the last activity of the item. So activity would be if it was checked out, checked in, or even if it hasn't circulated yet, if it's been created, that will be the dusty date. So if you go in here, again, you'll get the calendar option or the scrolling rolly option. And let's say I want to look at biographies that maybe have a last checkout date of, so let's say November 1st of 2018. And I'm going to set it to that date. You can also say, hey, I want to look at items that have a max circ of whatever number. If you're not really concerned about circulations at this point, you can always just set a really high number, and then it will focus on the dusty date. You can also narrow it down by, hey, here's the call number I want to start at, but I'm just going to leave that blank. And don't worry about classification. So I'm going to update the list. Awesome. So here we have our results list. And as you're going through the collection and referring to this list, if you decide, oh, maybe I want to discard this book, The Red Bandana, then what you would do is you would click on the trash can, which would just send that item to discard. So I'm not going to mark anything to send it to discard because I don't want to create more work for the Belgrade staff. But just know that that is something that you can do. I should have said this at the beginning, but as we're going through all of these tools, it's definitely good to think about, okay, how might we incorporate this into our routine if our library has to close again, whether that's because of COVID exposure or any other unexpected reasons. If you have staff who may need to work from home, then you might want to think about, hey, do I want to maybe forward the phone to someone so that they can handle renewal requests? Or if, they want to have holds modified and folks can call in if they maybe don't have internet access, or you can just train them on how to use the new app if they do have a smart device and internet access. Inventory, of course, if you can be in the building, is always a good one, as well as weeding. And definitely think outside the box. If you have kept one of the MSL hotspot kits, or sorry, the hotspots, maybe you have them in kits, but if you set one aside for staff, even your staff who may not have internet at home could still potentially work from home. So these are just some things to think about and things that have been on our mind, because we have a lot of great questions from you guys recently about how do we keep offering this personal service to our patrons while also keeping staff safe and keeping staff busy. With that in mind, you can also use MobileStaff for outreach. I know that's not necessarily something that we're focusing on right now, but if you do decide to do that, here's what it will look like in the browser. Some of this functionality will only be available in the app, and some of it, even then, you may not want to take advantage of. For example, I wouldn't necessarily want my picture in the library database, and I wouldn't want anyone scanning my driver's license to get my info. Also, not to mention the fact that that information may not be accurate at the time that you're registering someone. So it would probably be better to have them register through Enterprise or the app, but this is still an option. And what I would do is just refer to our guidelines on how we recommend that you fill in, names and addresses. And what I'm going to do is pull up one that we currently have. Bob's is pretty sparse since he is a training user. I try to keep his information relatively generic, but you see that you can set the user type. I've kind of been changing him around, which is probably why the asterisk shows up, but if you're registering folks in person, you can set them up as, your regular public users, or maybe you just want to set them up as, oh, this was an online registration, even though I helped them with it, so that you know to go back and kind of review that info. You can choose your library, and you can also designate whether or not the patron can view their charge history. Bob does not want to bother with his history, so I leave that off. And here, it's the same stuff that's in workflows, but it's just a little bit cleaner. So you may notice as I scroll through, I don't have a birth date for Bob, but some of your patrons may have that. Same with the privilege expires. These fields would be filled out, but he's generic, so he doesn't have a lot of that info. But when I talked earlier about emailing patrons their checkout slips, if you notice that the email address is incorrect for your patron, you can just hop in here into the modify user and update it here. And then you'll be able to send them that slip right away to the correct address.
There was a comment in the chat that this could be used for satellite libraries and staff for book searches, and that would be a great use of the app.
Yeah, definitely. There are multiple, I guess these are the wizard equivalents in the app where you can do item searches, so definitely.
I would even start with item status if you're just wanting to look up a particular item, because then you'll know if it's checked out or on shelf.
Exactly.
Search. And then there was one more question. Is there a way to limit the options on MobileStaff so that accidents don't happen with volunteers or satellite staff?
Let's go into setup and look at our options here. I know that volunteers won't be generally registering users, but you will want to set up ways to check for duplicate users. And I find that doing it by name, you can check more than one, is often one fail-safe at least.
Well, it depends on what the volunteers' tasks are, but this might be a good instance where we could show them kiosk mode, which will just allow check-in and check-in check-out and check-in functionality, so it's much more restricted.
Right. Okay. We can definitely do that. I think I need to sign out and then sign back in as a library that uses kiosk mode. So let me just do that over here. And we're not technically on break right now, but we'll just show that in the... All right.
While you're loading that, another thought I had regarding volunteers and satellite staff, or perhaps maybe a staff person moves on to a different job. keep in mind, if you've had staff that have downloaded this app or even workflows at home, it's a good idea to let us know if you've had turnover so that we can change your
Yes.
passwords.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Otherwise, they'll still have access to your catalog via their smartphone. So keep that in mind if you do have some staff turnover.
So one of the libraries in our consortium has set this up recently. This is the MobileStaff kiosk mode. So again, I have it set up in a browser. You can also set it up in the app, and you'll see on the left-hand side that you only have checkout and check-in to choose from. So if you go to checkout, they'll have to have their card with them or know their number.
And there was a question, could this mode be used for self-checkout stations? And yes, it absolutely could.
Yes.
You could set up, for example, an iPad to allow people to do a self-check. That'd be a great use. I was doing some searching in the Circe Dynex support center while Kylie was pulling up kiosk mode. And so other than kiosk mode, for limiting some of the use in MobileStaff, it does seem like there might be some flexibility in how we set up the user permissions for use in BlueCloud or BlueCloud MobileStaff. I'm still getting the app names confused in my mind. For MobileStaff, that's not really something we have tested yet, but if that's something of interest, I think we could try it out and see what happens. It sounds like, for the most part, it will use the privileges that are already associated with the existing login. So if you have a more restricted login that you're using for some staff, we could try that out and see. There are some basic permissions that are required for it to function, but it does sound like, for example, if they don't have access to holds, then that would just be grayed out for that user.
Oh, great.
But again, I'm saying this not having tested it yet, but it does sound like from the support center that might be an option.
Okay, so I just created a training user for this example. Thank you everyone for your patience. So Irene here has her card and she came up to the kiosk or the self-check and was able to scan it. And now she is going to scan an item from her library and click checkout. Excellent. And if you have a Bluetooth printer set up, or if you have a regular printer that just connects via the usual way, then you can have it set up to print. It lets you know the title and the due date. Now, if Irene went to try and switch users, she wouldn't be able to look up anyone's account except for her own. You'll see that this user search option is grayed out. As far as check-in goes, I have my doubts that folks would actually toggle to this option, but if you were to check in the item, it'll just say where it's supposed to route to.
And we had a question, in kiosk mode, can the user email themselves a receipt?
No, not that I'm aware of. I don't think so.
And it looks like kiosk mode, we can disable. Reading this thing I found, we can disable check-in for a kiosk user. So if you wanted them to use checkout, we could remove the commands for check-in.
Excellent. The final thing I want to go over is if you lose connection to the internet, either in your library or at home, and you're using MobileStaff to help your patrons. I can't show this to you in the browser because by default, if I'm connected to the internet and in the browser, then I don't need to use offline mode. But let me just show Belgrade again. I'm signing in now. because remember, you definitely need to, if this is the first time you've signed in on the app, you need to do that first before you can operate in offline mode. We've logged in. Okay, as you can see, it defaults to checkout, and here's the little barcode icon that if I click it, it'll ask for permission to use my camera. Okay, now that I've logged in, I'm going to choose to work offline as BLUEcloud. I'm working offline, and when I open the hamburger menu to get the menu on the left-hand side, the options that are no longer available to me are automatically grayed out. So you can do check-ins, you can renew by item if you have that item in hand, do in-house uses, inventory. So if you have the item to scan, you can do that. You can also add users, but you won't be able to modify them. And then the next time you log into this app, let's see, it'll let you know that there are offline transactions pending upload, and then you'll need to individually upload the offline transaction. So for example, if multiple people were logged in as BLUEcloud offline, so maybe you have a couple apps open at the same time, folks are either doing inventory or checking items in, then whoever had that app open in offline mode would also need to upload those offline transactions the next time that you're connected to the internet. And then it works the same as our report does in workflows to load those transactions. I know you can't necessarily click this link, but I will also put it in the chat again. If you have questions about anything we discussed today, please feel free to reach out to us via the ticket system.
We did have a couple of comments in the chat.
Excellent.
The first one is, I'm sure I'm not the only small library staff person with this experience. I fairly regularly get contacted via personal phone, text, or Facebook after hours or on weekends by patrons whose accounts have expired and they can't access Montana Library to Go. This would be pretty easy to resolve in the moment with MobileStaff. And then if we had it set up, it sure would be great for our satellite libraries upkeep. And we're going to have MSC help us batch change books, and we can scan the shelves with it. That's great. Another crazy idea, and it just came to me, and I don't know if anybody's ever done this, but if the general internet's out, but you still have your mobile hotspot with internet going, you might be able to continue checking out without having to go into offline mode, which could be helpful.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming to learn about our consortium apps.
Yes.
Let us know if you have any questions.